life these days.
The all-new Hyundai Kona. Seriously fun.
With, but one thing is for certain. We will, at the end of 8 races, crown a new Asphalt King. This is the first step on the road on what is going to be a frantic calendar's worth of racing action. We are going to be jumping over to what is some amazing racing at Interlagos to start off our proceedings. I'm Jake Sperry, along with Adam Reed, as we bring ourselves into action. And one thing that we're looking at here, Adam, is that this is going to be 40 minutes worth of racing, and you sit down and look at it on paper, and Interlagos is one of the great battling circuits that the world has ever produced.
Hi, Jake. Excuse me. It really is. Interlagos is one of those where it offers so many battling opportunities, so many fighting opportunities. I think we're really going to get a really good race. Of course, these cars that we're going to be using, GT cars, are always going to be spectacular. I'm really excited to see what racing can be produced. Of course, I think qualifying is going to be super important to get your lap in as well. To make sure you're not cutting any of the corners, but you do have to use as much track as possible. Interlagos will be the season opener before going over to the Americas for Watkins Glen, before hopping over to the other side for Laguna Seca. Then we head over to Croatia and the European stages for Dragon Trail, the Gardens they are for by Barcelona, and then to Sardinia in Italia. Then we head over to Fuji, the land of the rising sun, before rounding off the season on the 9th of September at Mount Panorama, Bathurst in Australia, the Battle on the Mountain. How good is that going to be? But let's just leave Bathurst as it is for now, and let's start focusing on Interlagos. Jake, what are you kind of expecting for the possibility of what we've got tonight?
Well, you look at this Interlagos circuit, and it's truly a great battling track. You've always got the opportunity to make the move out of Juncel and over towards the Senna S. That's one long straight to go and make it happen. You've also got the Curva de Sol along the Reto Aposta to the Skid de Lago. You've always got that opportunity to make that happen. It's a 4.3 kilometer circuit with 15 corners out there, and each and every time you come here, there is always a chance that the battling is going to be very heavy out there in terms of how everyone goes about their business. Today, your racing is brought to you by Hyundai, by Intercomp, by Sunshine Snacks, by Level Academy, and by JACAP as well. We are in for a treat, but this is a style of circuit that you sit down and you really don't make circuits like these anymore. It was originally brought together in 1940 as this much longer circuit than what it actually is. It's very rare to see that a track goes and actually shrinks down, Adam, rather than a circuit that, you know, what we normally tend to see is that tracks bulk up. I think we've lost.
See it falling into place. It's the right time, right place. How I'm loving life these days. The all-new Hyundai Kona. Seriously fun.
We'll be heading out to qualifying in the next couple of moments. A little understanding of what makes this track tick. This is a wonderful bit of action that we've got coming up, and as everybody looks to try and settle themselves into play, it's going to be all about who has got the main crux of what's needed as they go out. They are going to be on a timer here, which is shown in the bottom left-hand corner, which indicates that when you're out there and you're battling, you've got 10 minutes to go and set a time. You've got 4.8 meters per second in terms of wind, so it is a little bit blustery out there, but just like last season, it's GT3 machinery, and we've got some of the classic liveries out there on showcase as drivers all look to try and put their best foot forward. You've got JACAP there in second position as they start to get himself ready, and a couple names that we knew from last time, and a couple of drivers who are brand new to this series. The reigning champion, Interlagos, is there in seventh position, looking to try and put himself back forward. Switch of machinery from last time to this time, moving away from the Vision Gran Turismo Mazda over into the Lexus then for this season. So there is certainly an element of how that is going to go through, and all of that pace and that ability is going to set itself up. But we are about here, Adam, to get a little test on our flying laps. And these drivers know that the first lap that they put in on the board, I think is going to be one of the more crucial ones we're going to see today.
Absolutely, you get a sense of kind of where you are about as a driver, and kind of where you stand amongst everyone as they start to crossing over the timing line. To start those laps, you now have to start to really dialing in. You can get this early start, but of course when that timer eventually goes down, then you'll really have to start making sure that you've got your laps in place, that you've got everything all set for hopefully you'll be up at the top of the standard. Because only 8 drivers, so every possibility of getting a good result today, but you have to be up in those podium positions, I'd say, to get that all-important result.
Well, it's 8 drivers that's seen up on the tower, as is the way, and Den's running through the middle sector here, through at Ferradur and the Laranjina, and very quickly on this short shoot onto the brakes for SA corner. Then you're in the middle sector, down the hill at the Pinarino. You've got to really drive back up and attack off for the exit, because the Pico de Pato is the next corner and is the tightest corner out there on circuit. Little bit, I would say, pedestrian with that line, but now attacking back down the hill and hoping for a run through Mahulo and over to Junsao, the junction corner. And this is where you've got to attack off the exit, use all the road, and now it's about straight line. You'll see those 2 yellow markers there up over on the top of the hill. That will indicate here today your opportunity to serve slowdown penalties, which are here in Gran Turismo 7, and that is the marker where it happens. Orlan moving up, this JP 0005 finding himself then up in the fastest, but it's Super Uber going fastest for a moment there on a 1:31. So some good times creeping in. Ivan Birmingham moving up into 6th position, and we've got a lot of drivers here hoping for times, and there is an indication of what times you can get. Super Uber out there at the moment in the wonderful car that he's got out there at this moment in time. But 5.5 seconds of penalty, that will be served heading over towards the line in what is a very, very beautifully inspired piece of machinery. Still, though, we sit with opportunity, and this is going to be one where you get a real sense of the racing out there. Christian Samet putting down a 32.1, but 31.4 the time to be out there at this moment in time. Here on the third lap of battling that they have over the course of their qualifying. You got Addict, who was so good in championships past. He has got himself the Alfa Romeo Cup out there, so has done a very good job, at least in the initial forays out there, and those times are only looking to improve. They are on soft, trying to go through, and there's GRG.GG getting that time through in the Porsche, moving up almost half a second clear out there at this moment in time. So that half a second, Adam, I think is going to be quite a teller there in terms of qualifying. Hooked it up together on a 31 flat.
Absolutely, that's going to be pretty critical during these lap time, but of course now I've just noted that up at the top 13 drivers, so again a bit more of a bit more than what it's shown, but still there's some really good time being posted out there. A lot of Porsches as well. I think that'll be quite a noticeable car around here, but I really do think that we're in for some really good stuff all around. You see there Aussie heading through the Interlagos and on toward the uphill section of Ferradura, just trying to use all of the track as much as possible to try and just use every single ounce before heading into that tight and twisty zone.
Yep, and there is where Aussie is out at the moment, dropping down the hill and hoping for a good run. Now, Dens wasn't necessarily the best qualifier in the series when the Asphalt Kings were here last time. Overall, it was more his race pace that got him into placement and through everything together that we love to see, and that's where you're going to really get a sense of who wants what. 300s up then at the third sector checkpoint, and so there's a little look further on what more can be done by Aussie to gain a few places. GRG.GG into the pits. JP moving up to second on a 31.3, jumps JS19 for position then and gains that little bit more, but Aussie to the line, expected to improve on 13th, loses that 10th in the final sector, and it's a lot closer than it was a season ago. These drivers split by just 1.1 out there through the top 12.
Yeah, it's starting to get a little bit closer all the way through the pack, but they're just starting to heat up those tires and just continue going about. That's really all they can do at this moment in time, to continue putting in the laps and heading their way through. I really do think that these guys are really just trying to maximize everything, find the limits as well. Of course, that's all you've got to be doing in a GT car, just trying to find the limits of these cars. As Christian Samet just about to head over the timing lines, trying to improve his 12th position. Can he do it? I don't think he can. I think he's a tad slower there, and so he has to go out again. But yeah, 7.5 minutes into the session, I really think we're now starting to see these drivers improving once again. The 10th up there for Dens as well, so he's looking to improve in that Lexus.
Yeah, trying to get some progress here as Dens, a second off the pace, the reigning champion, and hoping that there is going to be a little bit more of a kick forward in terms of this lap, making progress over the line. Gains 1 place out there on a 31.9, but still almost a quarter of a second off of Lispanner, 18 in 8th place. There is Orland hoping for some good times. MMR Super Uber jumping up again in the Honda NSX. They're into second position. Wonderfully done with the classic Castrol livery over the top of it, but just 2 tenths behind GRG.GG, who looks like he's come to play the game out there at this point. Drivers thinking about, what do we want? How much fuel do we want? How much tire life do we want to use? Because they'll be very aggressive on that over the course of racing action, and clipping across with the grass as well. Up the hill, MMR Super Uber hoping for a second lap to try and go through, just 7 thousandths of buffer to the next place. So that's going to be, I think, the next important port of call. And look at her back stepping out from Super Uber, absolutely throwing it around.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to use as much of the track as possible. He's just trying to find that little tent there, find that little tent here, find it anywhere possible that you can. And even with the possibility of the rear stepping out, I think that's kind of the risk you have to take, especially being in second, being a 10th down on your arrival there. It's that could potentially set up the entire season.
Certainly can. Dens has found some pace, goes up then into 5th place with that. Addicts then trying to get over the line in the Porsche as Aussie moves up and gains a little bit more, but Addicts over the line. Still stuck there at 6th place and will definitely be looking to try and jump quickly up forward, but we are running out of time here in this session, because watch that clock on the bottom. It's going to start ticking here towards 10 minutes, and that's going to mean that these drivers are being a little bit alert. It's 20 minutes for qualifying, so they'll get another 10 to try and go through. So at around the halfway stage, you're getting a sense that, okay, Addicts is there, and he's got himself a good amount of time out there at this point here. He's got himself an opportunity to jump forward, but this is, of course, the first round of a brand new season. It's been a year since they've run this championship, and it's a case of, well, everything's a little bit different. The game's evolved to be a bit different from where they are, and there's still a little bit of understanding of what do you feel more comfortable in, and drivers liking the idea of the Porsche, and we're seeing quite a few more Porsches than we did last season. Still though, it's all about the likes of Addicts trying to push forward, trying to find a little bit more as Yves Jaku moves up into 5th position with that time, throwing everything possible up on the board, hoping that there is going to be a way to manufacture an extra place. So now you're starting to look at this. Addicts jumps back into the pits, and it's going to be an awkward situation, I think, for a number of drivers out there. And I think for Addicts at this stage, it's a case of sit down, think about what you need to do and move forward. There is Dens, almost 2 tenths down in the opening sector. Yves Jaku there in 5th with the classic design out there at this point. It's going to be a case where he's hoping to try and find some progress. He's trying to jump forward and gain a couple more, but you're looking at it every place. It's like pulling teeth, and there's a lot of teeth on the front of Jaku's livery.
Yeah, it does seem to be the good old Rexy livery that's being used out there, hopefully throughout this entire season. But he does look quite strong at this moment in time. He just has to try and improve, and that's not an improvement. It's still a 10th, but how much can he find going up the hill and towards towards that timing line, which is going to be the decider in his lap time. He's been pretty consistent so far, but at 33 on the 6th lap, it doesn't quite help. But he has gone into the pit lane to get a pit stop here and a chain of fresh boots. And we have had a spin there from our leader, GRG.GG. He has to now try and rejoin the circuit in a good manner, in a favourable manner, and he has managed to do so as well. So our top 2 looking pretty close out there, but what about JS? He's also 2 tenths down on GRG.GG. So he has a bit to prove there in the all carbon black Porsche 911.
Orland has gone 5th fastest then with improved time, and drivers will be now looking to take the fuel loads down and start getting into the fastest possible situations there. Of course, not the end of the world if it all goes wrong out there, and that's an improvement from JS19 going 2nd fastest first sector, 6 thousandths to the good for Orlan then going forward, and the middle sector's got to be hooked up there in the monster sponsored Porsche, and that's where you're really getting a look in at this moment in time. Okay, yes, there is a lot of driving out there to be had still, but if you can get the first sector up and running, that middle sector is going to be important. The double take down the hill there through Essay. Not very much helpful. And then a grab of grass from Orland, who's really trying to rag as much as he can out of the German car.
Yes, he's really ragging the edges there of the whole car that Hyundai Monster Sponsor livery, as you said there, Jake. Really looking nice in the sunshine here in the Sao Paulo. He climbed up the hill towards about 180 miles an hour, looking for that timing beam, which will cross and try and improve on that 31.371. He did a 31.37 on lap 7, 31.3 on the previous lap time around, but this time he'll head into the pits. But what about JACAP over the timing line? Not an improvement by far. I think he's just trying to get himself set into the rhythm, as well as Denz here, who's hasn't had the best of lap time last time around. Maybe did a cool-off lap. No, that's still an invalidated lap, and also quite the way off. So I think they're starting to get into a little bit of weight. Yeah, there has been a couple more improvements as well throughout this qualifying session. I think we're going to be seeing that, but it's all about that end part to the session, I think, where we're going to be seeing the most improvements from this entire grid.
Well, JS19 breaks the 31 barrier, but still marginally behind, and some good times coming in. Lispana moving up and goes into 7th with that time, so is able to leapfrog a bit more. Denz is half a second away, but down in 9th. It shows you that everybody's come prepared here for Interlagos, realizing what it's going to be all about. Couple takes there on the corners once again for the Lexus driver, and now it's about climb up the hill. 7,000 short of Rexy there, with Yves JACAP driving out there, and a very wide line at the Bico de Pato, trying to get as much drive off the exit as possible. And I wonder whether that's going to fall away. He's going to be nearly 0.2 of a second down. I think that's 0.2 down on his own time out there, with a couple invalidations as he went through. Denz right now, I think, is going to have a lot of work to do, but strategy is going to be the key. And there goes Rexy up into 3rd position. Yves JACAP will be very happy with that. Shalinu jumping up into 10th position over the line, and crossing is going to be short, 31.6, so down a 1/10.5 on his own time again.
It does seem to be a little bit down there once again, and he's just trying to see if he can make anything happen. I don't know if it can be any adjustments made other than burning the fuel down, but of course that's going to take life out of the tire. But yeah, JACAP really seeming to be piling on the pressure and hoping to get up into those top 2 spots, put himself on the front row of the grid, but he'll have to take a lot. But if the time is there, he'll absolutely be able to do it in a brilliant Porsche. But I think he's just trying to find that extra 10 is going to be the main question. He'll try and use every single piece of circuit, which we've been speaking consistently about. I do think it will require a lot, but of course it's still start of the season, and I think it's just about finding that rhythm, especially the first session, the first kind of first time these guys have gone out for a live session. So really just take in everything for the moment, but this is all set to change into future rounds, sure.
Yeah, and everybody's looking at these rounds, and because it's 8 races in 9 weeks, you're pretty much waking up to the fact that you've got to be up there and going immediately. There is Yves JACAP unable to jump up, but it's GRG, JS19, Yves JACAP, and then you've got MMR Super Uber 4th and JP 0005 in 5th position. So it's about pace, it's about finding that form, and early form, I think, is going to be rather important. Watch down on the clock, because we're at 17:53. We're running out of time here, and these drivers are running out of time if they want to improve. 12 thousandths of a second, the difference between 1 and 2. Yves JACAP a 1/10.5 away, and there is JS19 hoping to improve on a 30.993 to get under a 0.981 over the line. That's setting it up, but Super Uber puts a 30.6 down and goes fastest by 0.3.
That's a big lap there, Jake. I really think he's found something in that Honda. He has managed to use every part of the track and try and build up for that big lap they've all been hoping for, but it is MMR Super Uber, who is currently the Asphalt King around this circuit in qualifying trim. That is a big gap. 3/10 for the rest to try and close down. I'm not sure if it's going to be possible. We'll see. We'll be able to maybe chop it down a little bit, but who will that go to? Because also JS19 up into the top 3 as well, beating down Eve Jarku as well. So really seeing those times falling as expected, but I think trying to find those last couple of positions out of what you can possibly get and what you kind of believe you can find in those latter stages, because we're now into the 19-minute mark.
Yeah, it's going to be a race to the line here, and there is GRG.GG in the Porsche, hoping to really open it up and get over the line. 3/10 to try and find. Is there going to be anything on the horizon here? No, 0.2 of a second off his own time out there, so no chance of improvement, but gearing it up then on what surely will be his final attempt. Watch the mini-map to see how many drivers are where, and I think there's going to be a couple drivers who's going to be short. Aussie there is going to jump up and gain a little bit more. There's JS19 currently on a final flyer, but towing along Super Uber out there, as now everyone will get to notice this is your final lap to try and put it all together. Eve Jarku is 1/10 of a second down on his own best out there at the moment, and he absolutely clobbers the grass on the outside, and I think that will pretty much be that in terms of the lap time he was hoping for going over towards the line. So that might be a case of 4th at best for Eve Jarku and the Rexy machine out there on circuit, and does indeed fall a couple of 10ths of a second short. There is Shalinu over towards the line, hoping for improvements, and we'll see it all the way up and down. Most of the drivers now at the middle sector, hoping for their final laps to tick on forward, and we'll see if there are any improvements as they make their way over towards the line. We look, and again, another one is going to be a little bit short on the mini-map, as we are currently on Eve Jarku, whose lap times are finished currently. There's JS19 up the hill, hoping to move better than 3rd, and needs a lot of time to try and make that happen. Charging over towards the line. I don't think Super Uber is going to improve. He's dropped a long way back. JP, he'll get the slipstream for. JP's just gone 2nd fastest in the final stages of qualifying. He'll steal one away, and by just 0.02 of a second over GRG, who had been dominant in qualifying to go through. That is qualifying in the books, and the NSX GT500 of MMR Super Uber there, Adam, dominant then, with that time a couple of minutes before the end.
Yeah, it's been a super qualifying session. I've been really, really impressed with those drivers, but going at it for 20 minutes, for sure, it's not the easiest thing in the world. It's about timing your kind of qualifying. See, going through those limits, how great Michael back is it explored the limits, had to pull himself back. That's kind of the approach that a lot of these drivers went through. But yeah, Super Uber there with 130.6. JP managing to pull it to a 130.9, almost 0.3 back there. With GRG.G at Porsche 11 RSR up into 3rd. Then it's going to be JS19 P4. But yeah, look at those times. They're getting pretty close there. They'll only get closer throughout the I really expect some really good stuff throughout the race.
Well, the one thing that was very stark here for me was the fact that there were 7 different Porsches sat behind the one NSX, which was the fastest in terms of time. So I think that was rather telling in terms of how things were brought together and how everybody needed to put their times together on the board. Let's step aside very, very quickly here with the Asphalt Kings, because we have got race time coming up in just a couple moments. You're here with us on Velocity Esports Racing.
See it falling into place. It's the right time, right place. How I'm loving life these days.
Kona. Seriously fun.
And so to the race. It's a short run as they will get themselves ready. We will put 40 minutes up onto the clock, and these drivers will realize that they are in for a long haul. It is going to be one against the world, it feels like, here at this moment, and they're up to speed already, and we are off and running. Some brilliant action then ready to be brought to you from the Asphalt Kings, and immediately with the way that they start on those rolling starts, you really need to get up to speed, and you can lose a lot of time early here if everybody else finds themselves a little bit slower out there on the run. So now down the hill here at the Interlagos, there is JACAP and Orlan immediately starting to battle at it here, hoping for a way through, and it's going to be a case of Alex trying to muscle his way through. On top of that, down the inside, or on the outside of one, trying to get down the inside at Ferradura, and I think it's going to get them both, Adam. Gets them both, wonderfully manages to get them both, and that, I think, pretty much tells you all you need to know. So that is wonderful in terms of the move that's managed to bring itself forward. So now you've got to start thinking about where does Addix now go and get that next opportunity sorted. The middle sector now finds itself lining up into the way that it needs to, but right now it is MMR Super Uber out there at the front, JP in second, it's GRG.GG in third position with JS in fourth, and Addix, we saw there, Adam, with the double move in fifth. I think we may have lost Adam Reed here, ladies and gentlemen, so I'll take it on from here. There's a little bit wide, Lispada, and there he's going to go around into the barriers, and just like that, immediately there are troubles, and it's work to do to try and charge back forward. It is going to be worth keeping an eye on where everyone goes, and in all gold is Ivan, as he now looks to the inside and tries to manufacture a move on Yves Jarku. This now for 8th place, and is going to take 8th place away, and is going to manage that quite wonderfully there. Christian Samet also up the hill, hoping to try and find an angle to make a pass, and is not going to be there at the moment, but the middle battle pack is looking quite solid. And Ivan up the hill, now trying to really make some turn in through this next section, and you've got the opportunity to say that Ivan 46 is trying to now run away, and these early stages are going to be important. The tyre game important. It is going to be a race of strategy. Often see it as a two-stop race here today, with these drivers up the hill certainly hoping for what they can get. There is the front of the field, and MMR Super Uber unable to break away from the duo of JP and GRG, and GRG down the inside of the Falcon machinery, getting that wonderfully done, but JP is not wanting to give this one up without a fight at this moment. You know that MMR Super Uber wants them to battle behind and keep himself out of trouble, but you look on the straights and on the brakes, Super Uber just about getting things covered in that NSX and finding out there with his machinery out there, but it's going to be something of a battle right now. 1, 2, I'd say top 6 even, I think have a chance here in this one with the likes of JS19, Alex and Orland there on the back and trying to find a way into this one for the race lead. But Super Uber unable to really find that margin out there at the moment that gets it done. You've got Alex there and you've got Orland in position here to try and manufacture an overtake, but at this moment in time, they are looking more towards the later phases of this race. We're at 4 minutes here out of 40, so only a 10th of the way through here in the Asphalt Kings. So 1/10 of the distance there, and they're going to want to be aggressive, and they're going to want to try and jump forward and gain as much time as they possibly can. You get the sense right now that Orland here on the back of this group is just going to try and hang on, and sometimes that is all you need to do in a group like this. Ganging up again on the front stretch, and there is Ivan. It's starting to expand out a little bit here towards the mid to rear of this field. So Ivan pulling away from Jaku with Christian Samet there just behind, and he's certainly hoping that they're going to start running forward in this race, and they're going to be very reliant here in this one in terms of drivers picking up penalties to gain a little bit more to go forward.
Yeah, it does seem like at the moment they're just having to push on through this part of the race, just trying to find that rhythm, which they're really starting to do pretty well. Of course, they are currently on those endurance tyres, which I don't think will be entirely heated up just yet, depending on what compound they do have on. But yeah, battles all the way through. And that is Spanner on Dez. Currently the battle down right at the bottom of the field there. They're doing really well between the two of them, the Lexus versus the Porsche. I think it's going to be the Briton hanging on for this one for now.
Well, for Dens, the issue is that you come into this series as the reigning champion and you've just been overtaken and fall into last place in the race. And that, I think, is quite a statement for how one season's going to be different over towards the next. So with those up at the front, Dens not having much love with the Lexus here around this brilliant Interlagos circuit, up the hill and chasing, with that group still in front of Super Uber, GRG and JP, your top 3 all trying to run away. And I think that's actually something worth keeping in mind, as Dens will close in on Lispana trying to find this move, but once more Lispana will cover off the line on the inside. I think what's going to be quite telling here is that it looks like the front 3 or so have started to just pull out a little bit of a gap. There's 1, 2 and 3, and there's JP with a 1.5 seconds worth of penalty.
Yeah, that's going to be crucial, and that is going to be massive. Adix also has one as well, hanging above his head, quite literally. 4th place in that martini coloured Porsche, and he's going to hand those 2 places to Orland and JS19. That's going to be crucial for his race as well. He's really going to have to find something, and there you go, the penalty line will be coming into force. That's going to be up the hill. They head in after this into this left-hander, and then they're going to be having to be forcefully slowed down at the mark. That is just how painful it is, and it's put there to destroy every piece of momentum you have, and it does automatically done by the game, and so that is going to be the effect there. GP going JP in that one, and that is the effect just there. JS almost going into the back there of Orland. In fact, he did, and JP sits back by in the Falcon colours, the green and blue stripe there. Unfortunate for JS, who looked to try and nab 3rd. In fact, now go down a place to 5th. Not what he was in that battle. He's got to try now, reset his head, reset the mind, and go again here.
Yeah, he's really going to have to. I think there's no other way around it. He's got to go out there and really throw everything at it. Now running around the outside of Ferradura is JS in what is Knight Rider colours in matte black. hoping to try and find the pass. There's no room at SA, and then down the hill once again. We'll now have to try and go around the outside to try and make that move, and it's just not there. Not at this moment, but now, again, just immediately attacking at Bico de Pato. JP has been hit by a cyclone storm of I will make moves everywhere I possibly can out there. It has meant that MMR, Super Uber, and GRG.GG are now away. Orland currently in third position, but he's brought Shalinu onto the back. Well, not for much longer if he's going to go scrabbling across the curb like that and a little bit into the grass. That will temper any momentum.
Yeah, it will do. Facts, and I think he's just going to try and he's going to have a little bit of misfortune in that part, but it's still a long race, still a long way to go. What about just keeping the head down, keeping the focus, and of course, something that will be really important is self-belief in these moments, especially when you find yourself on the back foot. Self-belief will really have to come into play here, because if you know you have the pace, you've got to go over it, but, and of course, you can't have that give up attitude. That will only just send you down the field, but a personal best in sector 1. That's always a good sign. So pushing on here, we see now Orlan now looking for a second here against GRG.GG. They head their way up towards Verdura and on towards the squiggly section, the snaking section. The two Maltese drivers will do battle, but I wonder how Orlan will attack this one. Side up against the hooligan monster. Wonder when the first opportunity will come out, probably down into towards turn number 1, the center S. I think that's going to be a hot spot for overtaking here, Jake.
Yeah, that center S, you've got that almighty run here, and all over the place goes JP in the background. They're in 5th position, but GRG being reeled in, and all of a sudden with GRG reeled in, it's MMR Super Uber on his own out there at the front and flying 5 seconds to the good, which makes me wonder if GRG also got a similar sort of penalty out there, which is very easy to just pick up if you're not too careful out there on circuit. Super Uber building that gap, and building that gap quite wonderfully here at 11 minutes, which makes you think that we're not too far away from the pit window being opened.
Yeah, and that's going to really play a part here, because of course you could have that risk of taking left fuel, but it could also mean you have to do a little bit of lifting coast here. But if that does happen, we start noticing that, we will get into the details of that part. But look at this heading up the hill, and I wonder how their pit stop's going to pan out. Will they try an undercut? Will they try for an overcut? It just depends on their pace, really. If they're comfortable with those big tyres that they're on, really big to try and withstand the traction going through these GT3 Porsches. Really looking to try and maybe sneak a bit of a opportunity here. Orlan seem to have fallen a tad back here, but how will that go through the uphill section? You can see that their personal best compared to the times now, and they're starting to lose about a second. So I think the opportunity will be coming in very, very soon. Just depends if you can last on those set of tires. If you can keep consistent, that's also going to play a big factor, as it does in any race.
Yeah, consistency is king, especially in the Asphalt King series, and you're already seeing that drop-off here of about 1.2 seconds from the fastest times we got there. Shalinu runs wide at turn 1. That'll bring Ivan 46 back into play, and hopefully trying to jump up a little bit more. These drivers would love to make a one-stop strategy work out there. It's also going to be a game of fuel levels too, worth keeping that in mind in terms of how far these drivers can go, because once that tank is empty, they are going to have to try and fill it up and get themselves over towards the end of this race. So it's a case of, you're looking at two things. You're looking at how good are your 4 boots that you got underneath you, Adam, but you're also looking at, well, how much emphasis can I push on going forward, and how much more efficient do I have to be over the course of the lap to save the fuel levels that I need, of course, than being very, very aggressive with the accelerated amount of wear and the fuel level loss.
really is a massive game of like mathematics, not just in numbers but just management as well. I think these drivers will have to go through that kind of phase at one stage here, and you just see a couple of those now. Of course, Orlan going down to 4th now, so he's starting to lose a little bit of pace in that number 24 Hunican monster sponsored Porsche, but he's now finding a bit of slipstream going up the hill here, and the aerodynamic is going to be flowing over that JS19 Porsche. He's going to move to that right hand side, pops out from behind, but he's going to try and go around the outside in towards the center. It's going to tap wide. Can he keep it? Luckily looking to do a block pass, but JS19 found a way to go right around the outside of Curva du Sol. They'll go down the Retroposta side by side up towards 6th gear. They now find their way in towards the Interlagos. Down the hill they go, and Orlan now takes the place there. He's up into 3rd place, so forget what I said about losing pace. He's now focusing on staying ahead, going into these pit stops. Going to be happening in a couple of minutes time here, Jake.
Yep, so there's the move that Orland was needing to defend, with JS throwing everything. Look how aggressive down the inside of SA corner. You've got to be very careful not to pick up the run. And GRG now 3.5 seconds away from these drivers, as JS is really trying to open up every exit that he can and really go forward with it. JP watching on at this, going, well, you two continue to have your moment in the sun. I'll just sit and wait for opportunity to knock, and there will be chances in this race, and there will be chances a long ways away out there in this race to make something happen. Might be a case of drivers looking for undercut or overcut, depending on where it falls in line with the strategy. And there is the decision. JS19 going for that undercut, and it's going to be the first in. 40% of the tank left in play, so only use 60%. And I would reckon here that this might be a fuel stop where you're only looking to try and put maybe 20% of the tank. Remember as well that you've got fuel and tyres to sort of deal with as you dive into the pit. And as you watch here, first and foremost, fuel and tyres are separate in terms of each other, as would be here in Gran Turismo Group 3 regulation, or as we like to call it, GT3 regulation.
Absolutely. So there you can see the fuel canister going into the front of the car and just slowly getting filled up as much as the driver wants. That 48 completely blacked out carbon car. Portugal will now head out to a set of medium tyres, completely filling up the tank here. Be so careful on the way out of here. Now you'll head out, and that's a long way. So already now getting a sense in this championship. These pit stops will take a long time. You can see there on the mini map, he's heading down the Retroposta. Look at everyone else in the latter part of the lap through Zhengzhou. The mid pack now go. This Ivan 46 in his golden Porsche heading up the hill towards looking at the rear here of Addicts. They are going to start having a little bit of a tussle between the two. Really do think there's going to be some responses coming in soon. There you go, Orlan and JP both into the boxes.
Addicts as well, and you can see the difference on the fuel. JP has been burning the tank 5% more on the tank than Addicts. Orlan is a further 3% worse off than, and it just goes to show you that Addicts has been really fuel efficient and economical in the way the stops have gone. JP has been a little bit more aggressive out there on the circuit, and driving style will influence who goes where. Now, this is going to be a battle here of how long do you want that jug to fill up on the tank, and it is a jug, which means if you go through a jug, you need another one out there to go forward. There is Dens, the reigning champion, not having a good day at the office, but watching forward. Medium tyres, 90% of the tank for Orland out there, so certainly thinking that mediums are key. And if you do take enough fuel, you can make that a one-stop on the medium tyres, because you've got a little bit longer run. There are hard tyres available out here in Gran Turismo 7 as well, but you're looking at it really, Adam, in terms of going to those hard tyres. How much time are you actually going to lose compared by being unable to actually activate the grip of the tyres that you've got?
I think it's going to be a learning process here, Jay, because of course this is a game that some might not be familiar with. It might be their main game, so they'll be knowledgeable on all forms of tyres. But yeah, they'll slowly go through the season and learn about each set of tyres, especially if they're aware that it's going to be very. Let's just say the tyres will grain a bit more. They might start to destroy themselves a bit easier on some circuits. They might be a little bit calmer on the other circuit, a little bit more lenient on the lean of each tyre. So I think it's going to be a learning process for a lot of them out there. And I think that's kind of the way they've got to go forward with this. Maybe have a little bit of inkling, but I think just remember that these are endurance tyres that can last a tad bit longer. But of course, it's a 40-minute race, so you can use these to a certain degree. I do think that the main kind of bulk of this will be a learning process.
Yeah,
I'm really interested to see who adapts the quickest.
Yeah, and I think that's where it's going to be quite telling here, is who's going to find what out there. There is Shalini already 14 seconds off the race lead. MMR Super Uber has pulled that gap out quite wonderfully to GRG to about 6 seconds now at this point, and it's up now Jalinu versus GRG to 9 seconds right now of those who have yet to come in and make that pit stop call and are leaving it as long as possible and almost reverse engineering the stint out there overall, going from a really long stint to a really short one. GRG adding almost exactly 20 minutes, dives in along with Shalinu, using 3/4 of the tank up goes GRG. Shalinu 6% better off in terms of the tank, but out comes the pit crew in what is an automated system, the cutscene to dive into the pits. But you, of course, can stop fueling at any time by just pressing one button.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm pretty sure you're a bit more knowledgeable than me, Jake. But I do think that these pit stops are going into full effect, and we've got to really keep an eye on who's where. I think that's going to be the main kind of situation. So it looks like for the majority of the soft tires in use first, they can take about 15 to 20 minutes before then dying off. A couple going on to medium, but you wonder if anyone will go on to the hard tires. It does mean that they'll be able to push that more. I think that might be that they're going to be, you see there, GRG, GRG.GG, about 80% of the tank he thinks he can get to the end of the race. A fair deal, I think, in that one. Kind of a smart way to go. Don't completely fill up the tank both times. I think maybe going just under the complete limit and just use and just try and get it to the end. Kind of lower it a little bit more. That means it's going to be less heavy, your car. So I do think that that is going to be the way to go for the rest of this championship, unless there is a circuit, kind of alluding to Bathurst here, that might take an entire tank of fuel.
Well, you're looking here at MMR Super Uber being brilliant. There's Yves who's got himself in second position right now and is due for a stop. But these drivers are going to run the tank dry before they jump in, make another stop and go out there and be aggressive again. It's a one-stop day as we've got this racing going on. And actually, where GRG came out in comparison to JP's been one of the big winners out of the pit stop cycle. He's net third coming out of the pits as things stand. So if we can get a little look at what JP's been able to do, he's not a million miles away. And look at that conglomeration up at the top of the hill for about 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. All of them there are on the mini-map, hoping to try and get as much as they can out of the second half of this race. And as we focus then on Rexy going forward, you gotta love liveries like this, and the creativity of the Gran Turismo community never ceases to amaze me.
Absolutely, I think it's so amazing to see some of the liveries out there. You can see this livery in real life. This is in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Championship over in America. So if you want to head over to America, go watch an IMSA race. You'll be able to see this livery in its beautiful in this beautiful livery in your very own eyes. But yeah, just being able to see this in a game is amazing, and it does seem to be a massively popular livery amongst real life racing fans and also gamers as well. And I'm sure that I'd love to see this being implemented more in maybe future races. Hopefully, games in the future will be a lot more creative, and we'll get liveries like the Vulcan livery, like the Rexy livery, and some classic ones. There you go, brilliant. The Castrol livery, of course, the 555 Subaru livery. Maybe in the future we have to see. But yeah, the sky's the limit in terms of creativity in this race, and the sky's the limit for Super Ubu as well in that Honda. He's doing absolutely amazing, but he's still yet to I think he's yet to make a pit stop. No, he's actually in fact made 2, I think.
No, well, you got here MMR Super Uber, still yet to dive in. P being a personal best lap out there. I think either that or something else. So he's yet to dive in fully, make a pit stop and get back going again. But we'll see here with Super Uber whether this is the time, because that tank surely's got to be running on empty. We'll go one more out there on circuit, and if you do run out on the fuel, you're going to be limited down to about 60 clicks out there in terms of the lap time. So MMR Super Uber really trying to run away in that NSX GT500, very much a throw over to the Japanese style of racing out there in their GT series, which is often underrated in what brings to the table. As in finally comes Yves Jarcu off of the medium compound tyres, and so we'll have an aggressive soft tyre, you'd feel, to get to the end of the race. So too Christian Samet, who is right down onto just 7% of the tank.
Yes, he's right down in those low percentage numbers, the singular digits on those, now switching to those medium tyres. So yeah, he'll go right down the field, unfortunate for him, but yeah, we'll have to see how he can make this up in the last 15 minutes. He'll have to give it the big old heave-ho push. He'll be able to push that in his tyres, he'll be able to push it on the fuel. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing what Samet can do. Aussie has also had a couple of, he's also done quite well so far here. I think he's also left to make a pit stop. I haven't seen him in the pits so far.
Yeah.
The times are telling us either, unless no, he hasn't been in the pits, because of course we would have got a plus 2-minute lap time in that fact.
So Aussie is another driver trying to get through, and in comes the race leader. 16% of the tank has run those soft tyres a full 26 minutes and has just 14 left on whatever tyre that he would feel like he wants at this stage of the race. And a massive gap with the likes of JP and co, hoping to try and get that forward. JP has gone through on grg.gg as Aussie goes in to the pits. 9% of the tank left for Aussie as he now makes the stop, but JP is looking really good, and it's going to be the main challenge here, is climbing up the hill, but onto the medium tyres goes Super Uber. They have to make a compound switch, and just like that, I think that it's for JP here a chance to really run away and get as close as he can. This is net second, as of course Aussie's trying to get through. Finally will get fuel up on there as JP runs a little bit wide, but Adam here, a sense now that the podium places are going to be hard fought for, with JP trying to run away from GRG, and JS19 right now is trying to search in that Knight Rider machine, that Porsche, trying to jump away through.
Absolutely, I do think the podium places are definitely on there. Really looking to see if they can get into that all-important top to maximise the points they can possibly do. It does look like JP had made a pit stop. You see their lap 11 with a 52, and that with a 6. So big potential in there. I think somebody did a 2 point. So yeah, a couple of pit stops being made in there as well. So these guys have made these pit stops, and they're now free to race to the end. Oh, getting pretty close then. Somebody, I think, has got a little bit of a flash above our screen. We can't quite see it.
Yep, and that it would be a yellow flag out there just for a moment, localized, of course, trying to manufacture that move. And Addicts then in 6th position is hoping for a chance to leapfrog all these drivers, Orland, JS and the likes. There is Orland in 5th position, and it's about trying to stay in range. And in these stages, we've got drivers with varying levels of tyre wear going out there trying to find that way to jump forward, gain a bit more. Orland through the opening corner takes a little bit of a wider line, and there's Yves JACAP, who went backwards in the opening stint, but now looking to go forwards here as he's looking for a way through on Ivan. You got Denz as well, eyes on Shalinu, hoping to try and find a pass 2 back here, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th.
Getting pretty close here, Jake, and I really think there's some drivers really feeling that podium is up for grabs here. Jaku's been one of those drivers that he's taken those risks, that risk of pitting early. I think the tyres have gone in his direction. Down in 8th place, battling for 7th. Trying to see if he can maybe find a top 5 in here, but he's right onto the back there of Ivan's at 46, heading in toward the twisty section. And if he does want a good result here, Jaku's got to be very, very careful, make that launch, and then run away with it. Because if you look at the gap, look at the cars behind him, that's the battle for 7th all the way down to 10th. So some really interesting positions to be made up here. But of course, there's some others right up the top end. Sharp end of the field that we're really looking out for. There is JS19, and the battle for P3 is really now starting to rage on here, Jake.
It is, and inside 10 minutes, they realise that this is where the end game is. If you're going to find a pass, you're going to need to do it soon. GRG rushing through then at the centre, S taking a little bit of a wider line on entry to open up the exit, and 1.6 seconds away from JP. The slipstream's not going to be that helpful now anymore for GRG. This is going to be where JS19 is going to be able to pull that back in at 0.6 of a second, and GRG is just looking in the mirrors, hoping there is going to be no real worry and no real concern in the late stages of this race. GRG has driven a pretty decent race out there. JP's done really well with the strategy while the cameras were away from him to jump back up forward, but JS has been the one driver, JS19, who has been the most aggressive when it's come to making moves, and GRG will know that and will have to pretty much cover off everything, because when JS decides he wants to make a move, he will try every place under the sun to find a pass.
Really, really well, and I think that's going to be so important. Where can you make those moves? Of course, Sector 1 is going to be the most obvious. Oh, JP having a bit of a moment. He got a big tank slapper in the Falcon livery car, and of course, it's kind of it's also the Nürburgring rival to it, the Manti Porsche in behind of GRG.GG, a very popular team amongst the Nürburgring 24-hour race that was hosted in real life in June. That was not the best race in real life, but the event as a whole, my goodness, it was spectacular. I just wanted to point that out there. But JS having a bit of a moment as well, so potentially tyre line pulling away drivers, and a 0.5 second time penalty there for JS. That's going to put him out the battle as well, so that's going to just see his chance of fate at a podium place here.
Yeah, and that half a second, it's going to be a lot more than half a second when they get to the mark, and here's the reason why. Yes, they will effectively have the throttle locked for half a second up the hill, but it's all that time you've got to gather back up again, putting the power down, that makes it so difficult. There is Super Uber, 4 seconds clear out there at this moment in time, and driving beautifully at this moment, managing the race and doing only what is necessary at this moment in time, which is just making sure that there is a lead and that is being held and maintained at this moment over the groups behind. There is the back of the field, and Liz Spanner at this moment, who is down by half a minute in this race, but I'm sure he's doing a wonderful job in terms of what we were seeing last season, where drivers were upwards of a minute off the pace at certain circuits and a bit more over the course of time. So this field a lot closer together this season than we saw it last, and the likes of Christian Samet and co will be hoping to try and build on some momentum heading 1 week's time to Watkins Glen.
Is really going to be interesting in this one, and that is a pit stop there from the it is JP has made a second stop, so it's burned through his entire tank there, and a second stop for for JP. I think he was a very early pitter as well. It does look like, unfortunately for him, he's falling through the field there, but yeah, we have now got a bit of working to do for, especially for that car. But this is Dens having now a look here now at Ivan, but this has been a constant battle, but they've managed to escape from the earlier cars behind them, so he managed to pull away somehow. The Lexus looking to get past the Porsche in this case, but can the Briton do it? It's going to be a tough one because he looks very, very much stuck behind them.
Yeah, and Dens, who has been, I would say, passive in this race, haven't really seen him make too much of I would say, a hullabaloo trying to make a move. Well, he might just get a freebie here with Ivan struggling up the hill out of Junsao, the junction, forcing away to the inside. Dens starting to rally a little bit late here in this race and moving up into 7th place and getting that one done. So a smile there on the Lexus driver, hitting the brakes, but Ivan trying to go around the outside, now trying to switch it back down the hill. Very easily shuffled out. Is the door shut just about? But Ivan is in striking range at about 0.2 of a second. Gets a lot of curve though at the curve of the Sol, and that might just open up Dens' defense and make it a little bit easier, and it will. What a lovely battle between those two.
Oh, it was beautiful, Jake. Really good side-by-side action. And that mistake from Ivan just opened the door there beautifully for Dens to just slip on through, because he had to fight for it. Through that center S that could have gone into anyone if anyone decided to maybe to back out a tad and then make that run all the way down the retro pasta. See there, Jaku making up places here. So he's been pushing away in that Rexy livery Porsche. But I think that was Addix has gone on through in that case. In the Martini sponsored livery, those two starting to maybe try and push on together, but I don't think teamwork will be a thing when it's down to individual brilliance.
Yes. Well, you're looking here at Jaku, who has been charging in this part of the race, and Alex has fallen off to the tune of 4 seconds off the back of Orland, and that, I think, pretty much says all you need to know. Jaku straight to the inside. Alex isn't going to fight that one on that inside line. He'll have to go the long way around to make sure he's got that place, but Jaku just so planted, so much more confident to be able to put the tyres in. Remember, Alex was the first taker, Adam, into the pits, and here in the final 5 minutes, that's what fruit of the labours. That's why Alex is struggling. His tyres have gone off.
Yeah, that's not ideal whatsoever, but yeah, Jaku doing superb in this race, really making a good comeback there. And that, look at that, JS with the penalty. That could come in costly, because we know how much of a momentum killer that penalty system is. Really think that that's going to maybe fall into the compliments of Orland, sure, but also maybe even Jaku can maybe get his say. About 4 seconds separating JS and Jaku. But, I definitely think something is on the horizon here for Jaku, but there's not much time left. In fact, I believe that's 2.5 minutes left on the clock, and then we'll have to really see how he does. Pretty consistent in that second sector, still 2/10 of his best. This is going to get really, really spicy here, Jack. I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yep, so you are seeing that pace, and you are seeing drivers close in, and Jaku having to make some charges late here in this one in order to try and get things sorted out. But this is where you're getting the sense of that trouble as 3rd and 4th. There goes Orland through on JS19, getting the pass done, and up onto the final step of the podium. 2 minutes to go, and Orlan now has just got to give himself some time, because JS will now look to strike back here and get himself that chance to jump forward once more. Orlan, watch out as they run into the Interlagos, safe again for a little bit.
Again, pretty close between the two of them. This gap is only going to keep closing, but Orlan now in a really, really good spot. I really think he's put the pressure on when it's most needed. I really think he's in a solid place. That Hoonigan monster livery car, the number 24, really in a solid spot. But how long can he keep it for? He's hoping for the rest of the race, I think, Jake, and I hope so too. But without a battle.
Well, it will surely be the final lap of the race next time we cross the line with MMR Super Uber. So they are really running out of opportunities. JS 19, and the moment they start going side by side, that's where JACAP can get into play. There is your race leader, MMR Super Uber. Absolutely dominant. 5.5 seconds ahead of GRG.GG. He hasn't been challenged since about the third lap of the race, where GRG and Orland and JS and everybody around ran into troubles and got themselves into play. Down the hill goes the search from JS19. Look how aggressive he was over the curb at turn 2, trying to find it. In the background, Addix and Den's going at it here for 6th and 7th. This will be great damage limitation for Den's, the reigning champion. But you've got here Orlan defending the inside. I don't think he was at risk there at the Interlagos to being dived down the inside. He covered it anyway, and JS19 now brings himself into play. Den's officially through now, up into 6th position. This is the final lap of the race, and there is JS19 trying to find an angle here, going to the outside, trying to find that pass. It's not there, but look who's on the scene now. JACAP's going to need one almighty run to get himself there. He's at 1.2, and he is carving into that gap here for the final spot on the podium at Interlagos. But you're gonna have to sit and wait, because there is MMR Super Uber. He was super. He, you could say, was Uber category, and nobody got close to him. It was a field full of Porsches, but it's a Honda NSX that will come to a line and take an almighty win here in the opener. GRG will get 2nd, and watch the run for 3rd. Orlan is going to hold off. JS on the battle, and JACAP needed an extra lap.
Super race here in Interlagos. A brilliant season opener, and Danger feeling the pressure there from Addix right at the end, getting super close. But what an ending there to this opening race. The Samba in Sao Paulo really throwing up a treat, and it may not be the best season opener for some drivers. They've got 1 week to try and change that around at a completely different circuit at Watkins Glen. But Jake, we have seen a superb race there from MMR Super taking the crown. What a way to kickstart the Asphalt Kings.
Well, the Moose Mafia are going to be very happy about that result. That was dominant out there in a circuit designed perfectly there for that Honda, with the balance that it goes through. But we do move to Watkins Glen in a week's time, and a circuit that is all about slipstream and finding that momentum as you go through. It's the classic boot layout that we're going to be running through as well. So you'll have the chicane, they'll drop down the hill through the chute, the foot of the boot, the toe of the boot, and of course the heel of the boot up as they go through. So you've got a really lovely track that goes through. There's your confirmation of results, by the way. Fastest lap to boot as well for MMR Super Uber, and you can see that dominance going through. Den's, a surprisingly underrated performance for him as he jumps up to 6th position in his Lexus RCF and gains a little bit of time compared to everyone else. And it just goes to show you as well there, Adam, that a car that's 24 years old can beat a car that's 8 years old.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. That beautiful livery and kind of design of the Honda is something I think we really needed in the series. I think it was a great choice there, and I love to see a bit of variety. We saw. Let's always put this out here. We saw a bit too many Porsches, and I do love a bit of variety. I do love a bit of a Mercedes in there, Ferrari in there, McLaren in there. But all in all, we got a superb grid. We've got a superb set of drivers. And we've got some superb battling for the opener of the season. I really think that Watkins Glen will be a whole different story. We might see some drivers start to really try and pick it up. Maybe Dens can come back, as you said, the reigning champion should not be down in those places. He should be fighting for podiums for every single race, and I really do think that he should he definitely could be one of those drivers that could be challenging for wins by the end of the season. But when you leave it too late is kind of my question off the top of my head.
Well, that's what we've got coming up next. Watkins Glen, of course, 1 week from today, and then over from East Coast to West Coast for the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Then, of course, one of 2 fantasy circuits on the calendar, the Dragon Trail Gardens layout, and then, of course, after the week's break, you got Barcelona, Sardinia, the Fuji International Speedway, and Mount Panorama Bathurst to end the championship outright. This has been a Velocity Esports racing show, and it's brought in collaboration with Hyundai, with Intercomp, with Sunshine Snacks, with Level Academy, and with JACAP as well. From Adam Reed, myself, Jake Sperry, that is one which you could say is an offer that the Moose Racing Mafia could not refuse. That was a race that was practically dominant from start to finish, and Super Uber will now look around and say, I'm on top. It's up to everyone else to try and take it into their own hands. We will see you 1 week from today. We're heading upstate to New York and welcome you to Watkins Glen. We will see you then.